5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That should be done in a second. Oh, there we are. Oh, there we are. Oh, there we are. Some echo there. I am sorry about that. I hope that stops soon. It is Sunday morning, friends. Let me just pour this in, and I have to add it first. Or 30 seconds out as we just setting up for a nice cup of coffee this morning, of course. Bye-bye. What do you want to be able to do when you're 100? I mean, Julia Hawkins started running when she was 100. Jack Hearn was teaching judo in 2024 at the age of 100. Iris Davis is a bodybuilder at 79. When I saw her, I thought she wasn't much older than 50, maybe 60. And Chris Bonington climbed the Old Man of Hoy in 2014 for his 80th birthday. Those are just a couple of examples of people who are capable of doing a lot of physically demanding and active things later on in life. And I think one of the things that we are trying to discover is how do they do it? What's their secret? But maybe more than that, it's also just how can we live active, adventurous, self-sufficient lives, not only today, but as we age. It's likely that we're going to turn 80, maybe even 90. In some cases, we might make it to 100. But do we want to get to 100 fit as a spring chicken, or do we want to get to 100 kept alive by medication and willpower? And I think that is a valuable and valid concern that we maybe need to reevaluate and evaluate our daily habits and routines within and for. So hey, that's what we're going to talk about today in this podcast, where we're going to reflect upon the week, and we're going to think about the things that we've learned and the things that we can do slightly differently. Maybe for those of you who are watching, my name is Toby. I'm making my coffee. I am 41 years old. It is 5:30 a.m. where I'm at. And this is a part of my morning routine. And I'm about to go out for a walk. I'm about to put on my weighted vest. I'm going to load it up with 20 kilos today. I'm going to step outside. I'm going to go for a nice stroll of about an hour in the rain, because it's one of those days. What can I say? That's what we're going to do today. If you're watching, I am 41 years old, and I talk about health, fitness, and longevity in this podcast. I train to live an active, self-sufficient, and adventurous life. I do so by minding my sleep. I try to get between 7 and 9 hours. I do so by minding what I eat. I try to eat within my energy balance. I try to eat a lot of vegetables and greens. I try to eat a healthy diet overall, and the goal there is to maintain my current weight while fat changes into muscle over time, or is replaced by muscle over time in the same ratios. And that means that I also do some sort of training. I do strength training, I do conditioning training, I do strength conditioning training, I do mobility training, I do HIIT training, I do long-term endurance training, low intensity, steady state cardio, a whole mix of trainings throughout the week to complement that goal, as well as having an active lifestyle that involves a lot of movement and also some sport and play. Since recently I've added an activity to my weekly flow. I also talk about connection to family, connection to friends, community, participation, contribution to community, and contribution, the sense that we as people have something valuable to offer others, our direct environment, and where that come from, and how we can understand what we can bring to the table. So those are things you're interested in. You go ahead, subscribe to my channel, hit like on the stream if you're watching, say hi, or hit the 100 or the hearts. Let me know that you're there. I know it's Saturday night, Sunday morning. You probably have other things on your mind, but if you happen to be here and happen to drop by, it'd be great to have that conversation with you and to understand where you're at in this journey, and maybe where we can go together. Podcast usually 15 minutes, but on Sundays I tend to talk a bit longer because we're talking about reflection, and reflections just take time. That's completely all right. My current goal with the channel, by the way, is to hit 3,000 hours of watch time. So if anything, if you can, watch one video or two videos or 1 minute or 1 or 2 videos of the long form videos on the channel or the live stream, that would be very much appreciated. I would very much like to hit the 3,000 hours of watch time, so that I can actually start creating and building the business around the channel that I would like to have. But until the time, we're going to keep putting out content and trying to connect with people and talk about health, fitness at 40 and 50 and 60. Today's training, because I usually talk about a couple of things, right? So I talk about today's training, then we talk about the topic, today's reflection, and usually we talk about small changes, but in the reflection, we reflect on a lot of the small changes that maybe we've already tried to make throughout the week, so we don't add another one to our goals list. But today's training, I'm going to go out for a walk, so I'm going to put on a 20 kilo weighted vest, and it is raining, so I'm also going to be putting on a poncho, and then I'm going to go outside. I'm going to go for a walk, and that's going to be fun. It's also going to be slightly cold, but that is one of the things that I am going to do today, and that is actually part of my routine. So usually I do a workout, either it's strength or mobility, conditioning or mobility, with a kettlebell. Usually on Sunday morning I'd go out for a run, but I went out for a long run Friday already, so I don't want to overdo it. So I'm going to do a weighted walk this morning. I don't run with weights on, but I do walk with weights on. Every morning for 30 minutes I go out. This walk's probably going to be closer to 90 minutes. I intend to go a bit further out and around. So a 90-minute walk with 20 extra kilos on my body. And that is also to challenge my body and my muscles, my cardiovascular system, to carry more weight than I have actually, and to see what will happen and change in my body if I start to do that. I know walking itself has had a tremendous impact and made a big change, and we can reflect on that a little bit in a moment. But walking with weights maybe will have a different effect. I'm curious to find out what that effect will be. Said hi back, thanks for dropping by. I cannot pronounce your name. It is written in a language that I cannot read, but I do very much appreciate you dropping by and saying hi, and thank you. And I hope that you're doing well where you are at in the world, and I hope that you're having a good end of the day, start of the day, or middle of the day, depending on where you are. And if you have any questions about my health and fitness journey into my 40s and 50s, you go ahead and ask. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have, all right? Some extra coffee came out of the filter. All right, so that's going to be today's training. Let's reflect. And there are basically two ways we can do the reflection. So we look back at the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because every day there's a different topic to discover and talk about in the podcast. Monday is food, Monday is sleep, Tuesday is food, Wednesday is training or movement, Thursday is connection, community, contribution, Friday is then pursuit, hobbies, mastery, Saturday is motivation, and Sunday is reflection. So we can go through all of those topics, but the overall framework for life that I use is my wheel of living, which is, I think, quite a common tool in the personal development space. So you've probably heard about it, where I talk about health, and I break it down into 5 small subcategories to just reflect upon. I talk about connection to, family, friends, communities that I'm a part of. Then we talk about finances. There are 3 big categories in finances that I always feel we need to look at. And then we talk about pursuits. We talk about the things that we are doing for ourselves. Given that we are healthy, given that we are well connected, given that we are in a good place financially, what are we pursuing for the sake of pursuing it, and how much time do we have for that relaxation and reflection? So we'll start with that one, and then we'll quickly reflect on the week after, right? So for this wheel, when it comes to health, I look at physical health, I look at mental health, I look at emotional health, I look at spiritual health, and I look at financial health. So 5 parts, that quadrant. For me, the least important is spiritual health. I'm not that vested in that, but I know people are. So if you have a tradition, religion, or belief that you want to be connected to and practice, one of the check-ins that I think we need to do on a regular basis is, how's that going, right? The same goes for physical health. So let's start with that one, physical health. Do I feel well? Is my body functioning well? Am I suffering from any disease or discomfort at the moment? Am I taking any medication to remedy that? Is my arm in a cast? Am I limited in my physical movement? All of those answers are no. So I'd say I feel pretty good. I also exercise daily. I am relatively active. I think I'm in good shape. I can run 45 minutes without having to stop to catch my breath. I can lift heavy weights. I think I'm overall capable and confident in the capabilities of my physical body. So I think physical health is fine. What about psychologically? What's my outlook on life at the moment? It's gloomy outside, and I know the grey weather actually brings down my mood significantly, but overall my outlook on life is positive. I think things are going well. I think I'm doing well. I think my family's doing well. I think the world could be doing better, but there are a lot of things that I can't control that are going on in the world. They are in the back of my mind. When you read the news, you can't escape them. But generally speaking, I have a positive outlook on life. I feel good about the direction and purpose of my life. I think that overall, I wake up in the morning eager to get started with the day, eager to get on with things, not struggling to do the things that need to be done. So I'd say I feel I'm doing pretty all right, but maybe other people have a different opinion or experience with me, but that's how I feel about it. And I think that that's good to reflect on that for a moment. If we look at emotional health, I experienced a full range of emotions from love, anxiety, fear, doubt, pride, joy, I don't know, you name it. I think all of the profound emotions that make us human come by over the course of a week. And the great frustration, anger, laughter. I feel cared for. I feel I care for other people. I think there are many, many different emotions that we can experience in a day or a week. And as long as we're experiencing all of them, but we always go back to baseline, which is, just feeling good and normal. I think that's positive. Like, get frustrated once in a while, laugh like you can't stop laughing once in a while, cry tears of sorrow or sadness because of a sad memory or a movie or a story that elicits that emotion or something happens in your life. Feel joy at the sight of my kids succeeding in life. I think all of that is fine as long as, those ups and downs are settled around a relative baseline, which I think is that I feel relatively okay and normal throughout the day and in control of my emotions. They don't control me. I guess that's where I'd leave that. So, doing fine there. Spirituality, I don't have a practice or anything in particular, but if you do, reflect on that. And then I always lump in financial health with health at the start. And I think this is an important one for people to realize, that financial health and health go hand in hand. The numbers and the facts in the world are relatively clear. If you are wealthier, you are healthier. If you are poorer, you are unhealthier. If you are wealthier, you live longer. If you are poorer, you live shorter. And there are a lot of reasons that factor into that, but the disparity is there. So taking charge of finances and financial health and understanding our financial health and position, whatever the conversation is that we are having about health, fitness, and longevity, that is going to be a big factor in how we succeed and how we approach our health, fitness, and longevity. We can talk about sleep as much as we want, but if you need to maintain 3 jobs to make ends meet at the end of the month, then, something's going to be eating into your sleep, either stress or the working hours that you need to keep, or all of the other commitments that you have and responsibilities that you have throughout the week. We can talk about food, but if food is expensive and you can't make ends meet, that is one of the things that you are going to have to be very smart about what you buy and what you eat, but you might not have the time to do that, so your finances work against you, right? And we might talk about training and working out, but that's time you might not have, because you have to take care of kids, or you have to take care of a parent or someone else that you're caring for, in between 2 jobs, whatnot. All the while, your finances don't allow you to create space to build a better future. So if your financial health is not where it should be for stability, then that's going to detrimentally affect probably your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, maybe even your spiritual health. Okay, so where are we in that? Well, for me, the answer is always, it's fine. I'm doing all right. Someone once said, "You look rich." I appreciate that, but I think the reply to that is no, I'm not. I'm very average. I have a normal job. My wife has a normal job. We have an okay income. We do well. We are above the median, that is for sure, but we are not rich or super rich. We're just doing okay and getting by, like everyone else. And I think that having experienced economic turmoil for a large part of my life, having experienced extreme flows of money for a while in my late teens, early 20s, and having seen all of that go away and having seen the downside of losing everything as well, overall, every year I reflect on the last 20, 25 years, I gain more and more insight into the impact money and finances actually had on my development, on my choices, on my behavior, on my life. So it's good to reflect on that for a moment. Like I said, for me, we're in a good place. There's steady income that I can rely on, and I know that that's not going to change for the next 3 to 6 months. There's enough in savings should something happen. We need a new fridge or a new dishwasher or a new washing machine. That can be done without causing any stress, and there is enough space to, at the end of the month, to do fun things with the family when all the bills are paid. So financial health, I'd say, is good, and I'm okay with that where it is. I don't need more. I think less would be doable as well, but I'd prefer to keep it where it is, because life is comfortable, and I'd wish everyone to experience that level of comfort in life and living. And thanks for filling out the poll. I appreciate that. I think taking time to reflect on health and fitness every week. No, I think maybe if you want to tell me why not, because we don't have time, because we never actually considered doing it, we don't find it important. Have a conversation about that if you can. But if you're still listening, here are all of the reasons why that might actually be a good idea, right? Moving on to connection, community contribution, right? Which is a big factor in my life. So when we start with my family, am I spending time with my wife and children? Am I spending enough time with them? Are we connecting? Is there a relationship there where we can find each other, talk, discuss in between the daily frustrations, demands, responsibilities, commitments that we have to each other, but also to the world? I think the answer is yes, but I think there are also challenges there, and I think it's fair to say that every day is a learning experience. Every day is an opportunity for me to reflect on the kind of parent that I want to be and the kind of parent that I am or have been that day, and what the space in between is. And, I think kids, your children, have a way of pushing your buttons that nobody else has. And that has in part to do with the fact that they are learning how to push boundaries, and they know you very well, and you want them to be doing well. That other part has to do with your expectations of them, and whether those expectations are actually realistic for the age that they're in and their capacity for reasoning and understanding. And I think sometimes we want to treat them as an adult, whereas they are really just children. And we should actually be a bit more mindful of that fact in how we approach them and in what we expect from them. And then there is the matter of how to enforce rules and how we position ourselves towards them when they don't do what is expected from them. This is really difficult, right? There's a lot of advice out there on what makes a good parent. There are a lot of books, and then there's your experience. The amount of times, let me tell you a story. My father, when he is with my kids, or their grandfather, when they do something he doesn't like, he goes and he says, hello. The amount of time I've caught myself using the exact same phrase, and now I've started to notice that that is what he does, tells me that I have probably picked up a lot of his mannerisms in raising children unconsciously as a child. And I need to be really mindful about whether or not I would like those mannerisms to be reflected back in the way I'm raising my children, given my opinions about how I was raised. I come from two parents who loved me very much, who did their best to bring me up, but I also think that there were a lot of things that I would like to do somewhat differently. But to hear that unconsciously pop up regularly, and other little things as well, is a good reminder for me that that's a process that I need to take conscious control of. Because I would like to establish rapport, relationship, trust, understanding, reliability. I want my children to know that I'm always in their corner, that I have their best interests at heart, and that if there are things that they want to talk about, we can talk about that free of judgment, free of steering, free of forming an opinion, but more in a space where they can share their thoughts and ideas and who they are freely. It's not the easiest thing to do. Same, by the way, in the relationship with my spouse, right? There's she as a person, me as a person. There's space between us that I would like to be filled with love and caring and understanding and the ability to keep communicating with each other. And if you think that relationships need to be only fun, I refer back to the range of emotions that we need to experience in a day, but also relationships, whenever people work together, there is always space for misunderstanding, for miscommunication, for frustration with each other. It is our ability to communicate about that that is what sets us apart as humans, that makes us able to actually collaborate better, all right? Lions hunt on instinct as a pride, right? Humans need to communicate in their collaboration and in their relationships, on and on. Hey, YouTubepunk, thanks for dropping by, saying hi. I see it now, and I appreciate you dropping by and saying hi. And I hope you're doing well on this Saturday night. Do two of you have any plans? Going to be doing anything, or just chilling? And how's the workout going? We're reflecting on the week, by the way, so maybe I haven't asked you in a while how the training with the kettlebells is going. And how's your friend, the trainer, that you brought up in the other stream, doing with his family? I hope he's doing all right. So communication, relationship building, trust, right? It's a constant investment. There are days where I think it goes well. There are days where I think I could have done a lot better. But we always keep bringing it up and we keep talking. And I think the key indicator here for me is that we keep talking. And as long as we keep talking, we're doing all right. So maybe there's something in there for you. Friends remains a challenge. Busy weeks, work, children, responsibilities, geographical location, dislocation. So finding times and moments to actually connect with people is hard, but I need to keep working on it. I need to keep picking up the phone, calling back if people call me, and making sure we can connect with each other. Well, we can, and I need to find a moment this summer to actually do that. I don't know when that's going to be, but it is going to happen. I'm just going to try and get a couple of people together to see them. That's the area that needs the most work. But everybody with children will probably know and understand. And everybody has the same problem, is that raising children, making sure that we're spending time with them, bringing them to their grandparents, etc., takes time and energy. Okay? The communities, yeah, actively participating in the communities that I'm part of. There's the, what you would call in the States, homeowners association. We had meetings, some things that needed to be done. So all the neighbors had a pleasant chat. All of the things that agreed on are slowly being done. It seems like everyone is keen and eager, and it's a fun neighborhood. Had drinks with some of the neighbors, caught up on life in general, was also pleasant and fun. I started judo this week also to become a part of the judo community that my children are part of. I have a black belt, I got it a long time ago, but I hadn't been practicing for years, and I thought it would be nice to actually get involved and be a part of the judo community and see what's going on in there, and see what kind of offerings there are beyond training and competitions, to inspire and to contribute to. So maybe that's one. The school community, there's an entire conversation going on about whether or not children should have smartphones, how this works. I'm doing a little experiment with this one. We'll talk about that in a moment when it comes to connections as well. I think that it was plant foods and coffee. What's up? Thanks for dropping by and saying hi. I appreciate you dropping by and jumping onto the chat. And that sounds like an amazing community to be a part of. Is there any particular style of martial arts out of the Philippines? I'm thinking Pencak Silat, but maybe that's not from the Philippines, so I might be mixing things up there. But thanks for letting me know, and I appreciate the compliment. Thanks for dropping by and watching, and giving me a thumbs up, and answering my poll. So joining those communities, right, and being a part of the conversation about whether or not kids should have phones, smartphones, how we as parents want to deal with that. I think that's important. I think being a part of the community of parents and just having conversations and knowing who the other parents are. There you go. That's the there we are. Is a Screamer the one with the sticks also, I think, isn't it? Very beautiful martial arts coming from there indeed. So, reflecting on that, participating in that, I think that's all that I can do at the moment. Would like to do more, but also need to be focused on work and career and delivering there to make all the other things possible, right? It's a balancing act. So yeah, community contributions. I think the interesting one is not only this community here, but actually in the local area where we live. I'm talking with a physiotherapist and a doctor we were talking about making a podcast about health and longevity, because we all share the same interest and see the same challenge locally. We did a test recording for a podcast, but that didn't work out the way we wanted to. It didn't feel right. I think we'd be more comfortable doing an in-person session, so we're going to look for a moment where we're actually going to do an in-person kind of seminar for people in the local area, very localized, catered towards health, fitness, longevity, and the conversation around that we want to have. And we're going to see what comes out of that. Yeah, there we go. You're on top of your martial arts, YouTube punk. That's amazing. So moving that in a direction, actually a very direct contribution to the local community and environment that I'm very keen on making. Let's talk about finances. It's the fourth quadrant, right? And we've been talking for quite a while, so we've been talking for 30 minutes. Reflections always take longer. Finances, I break down into income, balanced with cost of living, savings, which is a result of income balance with cost of living, and investments in the future. This is not a financial advice podcast. This is not financial advice. It's just my reflection on life and living well, and how finances play a role in that. So first of all, income is good, especially steady income. If at all possible, an employer with a fixed contract with steady income. And I know that the States, there is this thing called at-will employment, I think. But in the Netherlands where I live, you have a lot of fixed contracts, and once you have one of those, there's a lot of process involved in actually sending you away. Doesn't mean you can't be mobile, doesn't mean you can't be fired, but you're quite well protected. And I'm in a good spot in my career. I enjoy the work that I'm doing, and the income that provides is good, is sufficient enough to be balanced against the cost of living in the area where we live. There is a whole subreddit that really helped me called Personal Finance. Their wiki, still valid. Went to it a couple of months ago. Read through, the basics, what to do with a windfall, what to do with your income, how to start. I've been using it for 13 years, and I can tell you that their advice has changed my financial position significantly. Their advice, coupled with a steady job for 13 years and steady income, has changed my financial position significantly. So look, if you make 100, but the cost of living in an area is 100, then it balances out, but there's no space, right? The biggest tickets on cost of living are your fixed expenses for housing, whether that's rent or a mortgage, energy, food, right? Utilities, right? And then the commute. Those are like the large tickets, and health insurance generally, but that's deducted from my paycheck before I get paid. Specifically, the cost of living in terms of housing, right? And then the expense of the commute can have a big impact on how your budget balances. So it's very important to understand how much we're making, how much we're spending on living, and trying to create space between that. At least 10%, but 20 to 30% would be better. Because if you have 30% of your money left for living at the end of the month, that means that we can look at saving in an emergency fund, creating space 3 to 6 months of money to live off should you lose your steady stream of income, should something else happen, right? And also looking at investments for the future. Can we set aside enough money so that when we retire or want to stop working, we can actually do that comfortably, right? And over the course of a lifetime, you would want to, there are different things, there are pension funds, but there's also your own contribution and investments that you can live off and do things off. All of that hinges on how well you're able to manage your finances and how well we're able to manage income with the cost of living at the top. And this can be very difficult to do, right? But when I look at that for myself, I think all three buckets are in order at the moment. Something might change in the first one that has an impact on the second and third. But I'm confident that whatever happens, I will probably find another job and be able to produce income that will even out the equation there. So, just keep that in mind. And then we're talking about pursuits and hobbies. Well, here we have creative writing, right? That I'm still trying to get back into. And I'm now trying to teach myself to spend less time scrolling on a phone. And if I'm doing anything, I would like to just use, those 5 or 10 or 15 minutes on a commute or standing still or sitting still somewhere to actually write something. Jot down a story or a story idea, write a paragraph of a bigger story that I'm working on, but really get back into that, because writing is one of those skills, creative writing is one of those skills that you get better at it as you do it, as you reflect on it, and as you learn how to write better sentences. So that's one. The other one, the hobby, of course I have sports and activities, but having gotten back to martial arts now, having gotten back to judo, I think is fun and interesting. And I can see that there is a lot to learn, like the teachers, their second, third degree black belts, their mastery of the techniques, their ability to explain and teach has inspired me also to say, what is there for me? I mean, after 20 years, right, I got my black belt at 18, 23 years ago, and then going up on a judo mat and putting on that black belt and thinking, I probably know what I'm about. And then walking into the judo club and seeing 8 other black belts on the mat was a slightly crude awakening for me, so to speak. But a fun one, because I'm proud of what I'd done and finished. And it also made me realize that I probably should have gotten back to it sooner. But again, reflecting on a lot of things that have happened in my life, and also on how, the path to the black belt and everything that happened in my family at the end of my teens and 20s, how that affected my perception of the accomplishment. It's good to have that realization that I could have fun at judo and not see it as an escape from life, but maybe as an addition to my general life and lifestyle. So probably something I'm going to be investing in and finding the time for that, like 1 hour a week, 1.5 hour a week, more than enough. Besides the time I'm spending with my kids at judo classes, watching them have fun as well. Have young Toby. That's a good question. I don't know, maybe it's a lot of work. I empathize with all of the women and men out there with long hair, and I understand that grooming, keeping that tidy and neat is a thing. But maybe, who knows? You'll see if it starts growing or not, and then you can keep up with that. But I'm happy you found that one video, even though that doesn't give me any watch time views. I hope there was something useful in that. Let's make one final note in reflection, because we talked about a lot of different things on this phone. This weekend, first weekend that I had a SIM card in it, and I started using it. It's a behavior shift, all right? I don't think you realize how many things are on your smartphone that you use every day consistently in the house and out of the house until you don't have access to them. We had a play date yesterday for our kids. I didn't even have the phone number of the other parent here. I didn't know where they lived. Usually I'd go through my history or message history to find the address they sent me half a year ago. Couldn't do that. I'd make some phone calls to find out where I needed to go. And I was like, well, how do I navigate there? Thankfully, there's navigation in the car. But the only thing I can do with this is literally make phone calls or send SMS, but nobody SMSs anymore, right? That showed me just how dependent I'd become on my smartphone. I felt more focused on what my kids were doing because I had this phone in my pocket. There was not a lot else for me to do. Even if I did want to get distracted, I couldn't distract myself with something else, meaning that my focus wasn't that interrupted. I could just keep enjoying, their class, them running around, them having fun, doing the things that kids are supposed to do. Yeah, I know, I got one, this one, literally very dumb phone. I can only make phone calls. And it's a nice throwback because I used to have one of these in high school, 25 years ago, and I was very good at typing on them. Oh, this one in Europe costs like $60. I think they're selling you the premium of some sort of technology, but this one was literally super affordable. I won't say cheap. I think $60 is still a lot of money, but worthwhile. So I think that is the start of me reprogramming my relationship with smartphones after having had one. I used to have like a Nokia 9310 or something, you know, the one that you could flip open. No. This is a modern version. I got rid of all of my old ones a long time ago. Now I regret it. But I don't think they'd work anymore on the modern networks anyway. Reevaluating my relationship with my phone is going to take time, and it's going to put a lot of things into perspective. So I'll keep giving you updates about it. And that's all I have for you today, friends. I appreciate you dropping by, saying hi, taking time to reflect on my week, maybe on your week as well. There's always room for improvement, but overall, I think the idea is that we have a sense of direction and purpose in where we're going. Yeah, same here. Big fan of the Nokias. It feels nice actually to have it in hand. It's also very handy. Just the typing of messages, had to get used to pressing the 8 3 times to get a letter, so to speak. If you're watching, go ahead, hit like, subscribe. If you found this useful, this podcast, please go ahead and do so. And yeah, exactly. Luckily, I'm not 100% off the smartphone. I just check it less frequently when I'm with my kids because I don't have it available. So I check it when I get home from the play. I race into the kitchen and check all the things that I missed out on while being disconnected from the world, so to speak. Hit like, subscribe, and if you want to watch a couple of podcasts or listen to a couple of podcasts in the series, I'd really appreciate that because I'm trying to get to that 3,000 minute of watch time on YouTube. Shorts don't count to that, by the way, so it's all the long form stuff. But even if you just turn one on every day and listen to it or let it play in the background, you're doing me a great favor and helping me out tremendously. Remember that we're good just the way we are. We've got to love ourselves before we can move on. It's the person we are today. It's going to get us to where we want to be tomorrow. It's a bit of kindness to ourselves. It's going to go a long way. All right? There are enough people out there who want to put us down. We lift ourselves up and keep working on ourselves and where we are and making the best of life and the circumstances we find ourselves in. And the reality of today doesn't have to be the reality of a decade hence. I appreciate that, YouTube Punk, and I can see actually the watch time going up. So whatever you're doing, I very much appreciate you leaning in and helping me out tremendously. Thank you. And the only way to get anything done, friends, is by showing up and doing the work. So at the end of this podcast, I'm going to turn off the camera, and I will see you tomorrow, friends. And remember to subscribe. Take care, friends. Take care, YouTube Punk.